welcome to lesson 8 of food preparation and nutrition, and today we're going to be doing filled flatbreads. Before we get started, as ever, hair tied back, apron on, short sleeves or sleeves rolled up, hands washed and all jewellery and watches taken off, surfaces cleaned out also. So for our filled flatbreads, we're just going to talk you through some of the ingredients you'll need. Starting off with some flatbreads, either ones you've made at home or ones that you bought from the shop. We're going to make a salsa to top it, and we're going to use some cherry tomatoes, spring onions and some olive oil. Then for your flavouring of your flatbread, we're going to use garlic, which needs to be peeled and either chopped or crushed, and a tablespoon of tomato puree. You've then got a choice of seasonings that you could use. I'll come back to those in a second. You'll need 100 millilitres for a two-person portion, a stock cube to match the meat or vegetarian option. So I'm using 250 grams of turkey mince. I'm using a chicken stock cube. You could use beef mince, you could use lamb mince, or you could use a vegetarian mince such as corn or another brand. We've then got a tin of chickpeas which have been drained and washed, and we're actually going to lightly crush these. Just going to come back to the seasoning now. So I'm going to be using a shawarma spice, but you could use a fajita seasoning, a piri piri, a jerk chicken, maybe a tandoori or a tikka seasoning as well, whichever might suit your taste buds. Just before we move on, so with the chickpeas, going to take the fork and just using the back of the fork, going to gently crush them. You want about half of the chickpeas in the bowl crushed. Okay? Right, I'm going to be moving over to the hob because that's where we're going to be doing most of the cooking today. Okay, so now we're over at the hob and we're ready to start cooking. If you were using a beef mince or a lamb mince, you wouldn't need to add any oil to the pan, but because I'm using turkey mince, I've added 1 tablespoon of oil, which I'm going to heat through before I add my meat. After I've heated my oil up, I'm going to add the meat into the dish, and then I'm going to stir it and continue to cook for 4 to 5 minutes until the meat has changed colour. So for your beef or your lamb, it would go a brown colour, and for your turkey mince, it would go white all the way through. Okay, so my meat has started to change colour now, and I'm just moving it around to make sure that there's no pink bits that I've missed. And as I'm going, I'm using my spoon or my spatula just to actually break the mince up to make sure it's in small chunks. So before I turn my heat down, I'm going to add some salt and some pepper. And I'm just going to reduce my heat to a lower heat, and now I'm going to add in the tomato puree, the spice mix and the garlic. Reducing the heat just allows you a little more time to stir things together to make sure they're well combined. Just give everything a good stir around. And once we're happy that we've stirred it all in, allow yourself a minute, maybe 2, to do this. Once we're happy we've got everything combined, we're going to turn that heat back up. We're going to add the 100 millilitres of water, and we're going to add in the tin of chickpeas, some of which have been crushed, and finally we're going to crumble in the stock cube. Stir all of these ingredients together, and actually what we want now is to bring the liquid up to the boil. I know some of you have been increasing the quantities of your ingredients. Just make sure that when you do this, that you're increasing each of your ingredients so that you keep the quantities correct. Okay, so now I've spent 5 to 6 minutes just cooking all of these ingredients through together. I'm now going to top my flatbreads and then pop them into the oven. So 2 flatbreads here on a oven-proof baking tray. I'm just going to use a large spoon, and I want to leave about a 2 centimetre border around the edge of the flatbreads. So just carefully top them. And once you've topped them, they're going to go into the oven at 180 degrees for a fan assisted oven, and they're going to be in there for 6 minutes. Okay, so just remember to put your oven gloves on. Make sure you've preheated your oven so it's already up to temperature, and then pop these in. While my flatbreads are in the oven, I'm just going to prepare a really simple salsa. So I've got some cherry tomatoes, which using the bridge and claw technique I have diced, and I've also got some spring onions here which I've actually bias cut, which if you remember it means cutting on a slight angle. If you haven't got spring onions, you could also use a red onion. And so I'm just going to put together some of these tomatoes and the spring onions. And to this I'm going to add a drizzle of olive oil, and then some seasoning, some salt and some pepper. And this is going to make the salsa that I'm going to serve on the top of my flatbreads. So I'm going to get those out of the oven now and just show you how to top them. Okay, so I've got my flatbreads out of the oven now. Make sure always to have your oven gloves on. I'm just going to take one of them off and start to serve these up. So I'm going to serve mine with a side salad. So just going to lift one of these carefully onto here. Okay, and then as I said before, the simple salsa that I've made with my onion and tomato, just going to go on top of here. And there we go. So as I said before, I used a shawarma mix and I used turkey mince, but you could use a different choice of mince, beef mince, lamb mince, or a vegetarian alternative. And you could use any range of seasonings, a fajita seasoning, tikka. Have a chat with people that you live with and see what they might like. Enjoy, and as ever, please let me know if you've got any problems.